Hello, fellow weaver. I'm your host, Willow Goose, and today we're going to talk about multiplying the shafts in Weavepoint. Now, why would we want to do this? Let's say you have more shafts than your draft needs, but you don't have enough heddles on the shafts that it does use. So, for example, we'll show you using the Analyze heddles. You can see here that we will need 146 heddles on shaft 1 and 148 on shaft 2. However, we know that our loom only has 100 heddles on shaft 1 and shaft 2. So we're going to run out. But since our loom has 32 shafts, we can use some of the heddles from other shafts to weave this without having to shift the heddles around. And frankly, we hate shifting the heddles around. So in this situation, we're going to be using the multiply shafts feature of Weavepoint. So we'll close this up. Now, it's very important. If you get an error message when using multiply shafts that says something like pattern must have more than one repeat, consider whether your selvage is causing the software to think that there is not more than one repeat. But if you look here at our draft, there is clearly more than one repeat. So that's where we've already taken out the selvage. So we are ready to go. So this is when we're going to do utilities, multiply shafts. And here you can multiply shafts by more than 2. So if we know that our shafts have 100 heddles and you needed, say, 300 heddles on one shaft, you would probably multiply this by 3 instead of 2. But we know that 200 heddles will take care of this. So we're going to click OK. So you can see what the software does is it takes every other repeat of 232141 and it repeats that pattern on other shafts 676 585. And what it also does is it changes your tie-up so that the tie-up is the same on shafts 5, 6, 7, and 8 as it was on shafts 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it does this evenly. There was a point in time when we thought, why is it doing that? Why doesn't it just multiply it at the end of the warp? Well, you probably can figure this out better than we could. But when you do this every other, then the shafts remain balanced. If we did 1, 2, 3, 4 at the beginning of the warp and 5, 6, 7, 8 at the end of the warp, then both shafts will be unbalanced. So that's why they alternate it in this way. What would have been interesting is why the software doesn't just multiply shaft 1 to shaft 5, shaft 2 to shaft 6, when it really could have done that and left 3 and 4 alone. I can only guess that it was easier to do the entire pattern. But if you only had, say, 6 shafts in this situation, then it might have been better for those kind of people to only multiply the shafts that needed to be done, and we don't see any technical weaving problem with it. So it must be that it was just easier to multiply them all versus allowing the user to multiply only shafts 1 and 2, since those were the only ones that had an issue. And if we wanted, we could have gone back, fixed shafts 7 and 8 to be back here on shafts 3 and 4, and everything would be fine. But since we have more shafts than we need, we'll just go ahead and thread it as it's shown here. But for people who have fewer shafts, you could move shafts 7 and 8 down back to 4 and it will be just fine. So there you have it, the multiply shaft function. Very valuable, particularly for people who have more shafts, but still useful for those who have 8 or fewer shafts. Hope everybody has a happy weaving day. Bye!